As already we have started our lecture series on Election Commission of India and its special intensive revision of electoral rule in Bihar, and which would further carried out in other states of Indian Union and Union territories as the very specific targeted date and year was 1st January 2026. So, in that context, we would like to discuss a relevant leading case, and that was decided in the year 2024, and that case is relating to Association for Democratic Reforms versus Union of India, which was relating to the electoral bonds which were issued by the Union government through the State Bank of India in the year 2018, and the very judgment was delivered by a constitutional bench presiding over by the then Chief Justice of India, Justice Dr. D.Y. Chandrachud. The bench was consisting also the then Chief Justice of India, Justice Sanjeev Khanna, and the present Chief Justice of India, Justice B.R. Gavai, then Justice J.B. Paritwala, and Justice Manoj Mishra. So, exactly on 2024, the Supreme Court of India, in a landmark judgment delivered by a five-judge constitutional bench led by the then Chief Justice of India, Justice Dr. D.Y. Chandrachud, struck down the Union government's 2018 electoral bond scheme. The court unanimously held that the scheme violated the voters' right to information guaranteed under Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause A of the Constitution of India, ruling that transparency in political funding is essential for ensuring free and fair elections. So now we'll go to the very facts, and those facts are relating to anonymous donation by corporate houses to political parties, then electoral corruption and non-transparency in political funding by corporate houses or industrial houses. Electoral bond scheme introduced in 2018 allowed anonymous donation to political parties primarily from corporations. This scheme exempted political parties from disclosing the names of donors and provided anonymity in transactions. The Petitioners Association for Democratic Reforms, also another non-governmental organization that was involved, was the Common Cause Registered Society. Also, the Communist Party, Marxist, challenged the scheme, arguing that it encouraged non-transparency in political funding and contributed to electoral corruption on a large scale. The court was tasked with evaluating the constitutionality of the scheme and whether it violated the voters' right to information. So, the legal issues involved in this case regarding corporate funding, right to information, then the very jurisdiction of the apex court, the question of black money, and the right to privacy of the donors. So, the first such legal issue that raised whether the scheme's facilitation of unlimited corporate funding to political parties infringed on the principles of free and fair elections, and the second legal issue raised whether the anonymity embedded in the electoral bond scheme violated the voters' right to information as it is being a part of the fundamental rights, that is freedom of speech and expression as it is provided under Article 19 Clause 1 Subclause A. And the third legal issue that raised whether the court had the jurisdiction to hear this case, considering it involved economic policy matters made by the Union government. And the fourth legal issue related to this landmark judgment whether the electoral bond scheme was justified as a tool to carve black money. And finally, the fifth legal issue raised whether the scheme violated the privacy rights of donors while impacting the electoral's ability to make informed voting decisions. So, the very judgment delivered by the five-bench constitutional bench of the apex court, which made reference to Union of India versus for Association for Democratic Reforms, a decided case of 2002, then it felt carving black money, so also the issue relating to one person, one vote, then doctrine of proportionality, then right to privacy. And the implications resulted out of this landmark judgment in transparency in political bonding, corporate influence, and the question relating to amendments to different acts, then direction to the State Bank of India. So the court observed that the electoral bonds scheme severely undermined transparency in political bonding, thus impeding the voters' right to information. The judgment reiterated that, as established in earlier cases like Union of India versus Association for Democratic Reforms, which was decided in the year 2002, voters have a right to information about political parties, which enables them to make an informed decision at the polls. The court also noted that the anonymity granted by this scheme created a disparity in political influence, with corporate donors holding disproportionate power over political decision making. Further, the court rejected the Union government's arguments defending the confidentiality and the economic policy nature of the schemes, stating that the electoral bond scheme was not an economic policy but a measure directly affecting the electoral process. It further criticized the justification of carving black money, ruling that this scheme failed the proportionality test as it did not effectively address this goal without infringing on voters' rights. Further, in regard to corporate funding, the court found that allowing unlimited corporate donation, which violated the very principle of one person, one vote, by disproportionately empowering corporations to influence elections. So the judgment also addressed the privacy concerns, emphasizing that while donor privacy is important, it should not override the public's right to information about political funding. So the court held that the restrictive means test of the doctrine of proportionality is not satisfied and that there are other means other than electoral bonds to achieve the purpose of carving black money, even assuring it to be a legitimate objective. The infringement to the right to information is not justified, as the court held that acknowledging the right of informational privacy extend to financial contributions, which is a facet of political affiliation. Chief Justice Dr. D.Y. Chandrachud revealed that a double proportionality standard was applied to balance the conflicting rights to information and to informational privacy, rejecting the union's argument that Clause 7, Subclause 4C of the Electoral Bond Scheme balances the two rights. The court said that the provision tilts the balance to favor of the right to informational privacy because the suitability prong of the proportionality standard is only partly fulfilled. The then Chief Justice of India, Justice Dr. D.Y. Chandrachud, accordingly held that the Union government has failed to establish that the measure adopted in Clause 7, Subclause 4, 1 of the Electoral Bond Scheme is the least restrictive measures. Accordingly, the amendments to the Income Tax Act, the Representation of People's Act, the Companies Act have been held to be unconstitutional. The very implications of the judgment in the field of transparency in political bonding, it emphasized that transparency in political bonding is crucial for the health of a democracy and that voters must have access to information to make informed decisions. Further, the implication was relating to corporate influence on politics. The ruling limited the very scope for corporate influence on elections, reinforcing the idea that elections should reflect the will of individual voters, not corporate interests. Further, holding the amendments to legislation, the apex court declared the amendments to the Representation of the People's Act 1951, the Income Tax Act of 1961, and the Companies Act 2013 as unconstitutional, leading to the invalidation of provisions that allowed anonymous donations and unlimited corporate funding. So finally, the bench, presided over by the then Chief Justice of India, Justice Dr. D.Y. Chandrachud, directed the State Bank of India to stop issuing electoral bonds and submit detailed reports of bonds purchased and redeemed since 2019 to the Election Commission of India, which will then publish the said information regarding the submission of such electoral bonds purchased by those persons as information on the website of the Election Commission of India by the Election Commission of India. So finally, we have discussed the most important landmark judgment delivered in 2024 relating to this landmark leading case, Association for Democratic Reforms vs.Union of India, and in particular it was relating to the electoral bond scheme issued by the Union government on the ground of economic policy in the year 2018 and which was challenged by the non-governmental organization as such Association for Democratic Reforms along with Common Cause Registered Society and the Communist Party of India, Marxist.